Good to see you, Jenk.
Good to see you, Tucker.
I haven't seen you since we had a debate years ago, I think, at Politicon. Totally different world. But I was thinking this morning as I was driving in, I'm like, of all the things you could do to infuriate your audience, this is probably at the top of the list. Like, you don't need to do this. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. So there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I want to take yes for an answer. You're anti-war. We've been anti-war for 20 years. So
I have not been. So bless you for that.
Thank you, brother, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And so that's amazing. That's important. And I also want to break down the barriers of Republicans versus Democrats, right wing versus left wing. I think that it's kind of used to divide us. And I think that the powerful already have an incredible elite team. They're very, very organized, and they do it through donations to the politicians, et cetera.
Yes.
But the American people are not organized. We have built two teams. But those two teams, the Republicans and the Democrats, have been trained to fight each other instead of fighting up, right?
Exactly.
And so when you split the population that way, you take away all of their energy because you have them use their energy against one another rather than against you. It's actually brilliant.
It's how the British ruled India.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
And it's done on a meta level in every way. Also, by the way, on a global level, Christians versus Muslims. 2 billion here, 2 billion there. Make sure you guys are fighting one another. And hey, look at that. We've used up all your energy fighting one another and not looking up.
I've noticed, yeah.
Okay. So, and then of course, the third issue is Israel. And so that's what I want to talk to you a lot about today, I hope. And I think that that's an animating issue for a number of reasons, not because it's the end all be all, but because it is deeply symbolic. And so whether it's Big Pharma or Big Oil or AIPAC, they are buying our politicians. And so you're a rare person saying that. I'm a person saying that. And the mainstream media works against us, and they try to shut us up and say, shh, don't tell anybody about money in politics.
Yes.
No, these politicians are honest and honorable people having debates. They're not having any debates. They're cashing checks. And so I want all of America to know that. And at the end of the day, Tucker, if we don't unite as Americans, the powerful are going to rule us forever.
I think that is absolutely true. So let's just start with motive. I hate going to motive because it's like we don't even know our own motives a lot of the time, right? Motive is very hard to determine. But when this topic comes up, people go immediately to motive. You're taking money from somebody, a foreign power. Okay. You've got some secret religious affiliation. You're filled with hate. It's all about why you have these views rather than addressing the views themselves. I've just noticed this, having lived it. And so I just want to ask you about Israel specifically. How did you come to this, and what are your motives?
Yeah. So it's a difficult one for me because I grew up in a town that was about 50% Jewish. So I have tons of Jewish friends. I have Jewish family. I have a nephew and niece who are Jewish.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to make people uncomfortable, and I don't want this to be about the Jews. That's crazy. And what I tell people all the time is, hey, listen, like my friend Dave, my friend Jack, Mossad never called them and asked permission, right? Netanyahu was never like, hey, should we take 53% of Gaza? What do you think, Dave? Right? So
yes.
That's not how it works. So anyone who's got that intent, I'm not interested in. Okay, you're not going to have me as an ally. It's not going to work out. I have Jewish family. I have Jewish friends. I'll never sell them out. Okay,
right.
So, and the other thing about Jewish Americans is they're Americans, and I believe in a united America. Okay,
yes.
So you're for America. I love you, and I protect you. I'll give you one last example, although I can give you thousands, right? But Dave Smith is an amazing ally of ours.
A wonderful man. Too.
Yeah,
I agree.
So if you come for Dave, you come for all of us. He's one of us.
Yes.
Okay, we protect our own Americans.
Right.
Okay, so now why do I have an issue with Israel then? Even though I would actually naturally want to ally with Israel, given all the Jewish friends and family that I have, right? And I didn't know a lot of Palestinians growing up. I only knew one Palestinian. We had one in our high school, and we had hundreds of Jewish folks who loved Israel, et cetera, right? The problem with Israel isn't just the genocide that they just committed, but that would be enough. That is a horrific injustice.
In Gaza.
I mean, you've got well over 70,000 dead. You've got God knows how many thousands buried in the rubble, and they're adding to the count every day. You've got 10% of the entire population that was either killed or injured, which is a stunning number. That's why almost every genocide scholar says it's obviously a genocide, right?
10% of the entire population?
Yes, either killed or injured. Okay.
So that'd be over 200,000.
Yes, that's right. Because the amount injured are well over 130,000. Okay.
But just to be clear on that, like that's a number that we should know, I think, since we paid for it. And I think it's so important to know what death tolls and the injury count is, because you did this and you have to know what the consequences are. I think it's totally fair. We don't know in the Russia-Ukraine war. We have no idea. And we have no idea in Gaza. So I just want to say that there are estimates that it's over 500,000. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the point. We should know that.
Yeah,
we have a right to know that.
So, Tucker, that's going to go to points 2 and 3, which
Sorry, I could just erupted within me. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I want to come back to that because 2 and 3 are super important because it's symbolic of the power that all the donor class has, not just Israel. But also with Israel, you have gaslighting that is extreme, where you don't have that in any other
Can you explain what that is?
So you'll say, hey, I don't think we should give Israel another $30 billion or another $100 billion. I want to get into all these numbers in a second, right? And they'll say anti-Semite. Now, so wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Like we could Mad Lib this, right? You take any Israeli talking point and put in a different country and it sounds absurd, right?
Yeah.
Like you owe Thailand $300 billion. People will be like, what? No, we don't. Anti-Thai racist, right? You're like, what? I don't even know any Thai people. What are you talking about? You're an anti-Thaiist, right? No, I'm not, right?
Why do you hate Thailand?
Exactly. But
you're obsessed with Thailand. That's my favorite. You're obsessed with Thailand. Okay.
Well, by the way, I would be obsessed with Thailand if Thailand took $300 billion off of us, right? And if Thailand was like, you have to attack everyone else in Southeast Asia. You know, we have a Thai Christian heritage.
Yeah.
And imagine if India did that. And they're like, we have a Hindu Christian heritage, and that's why you need to attack Pakistan.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're not for attacking Pakistan, you're clearly being paid by Bhutan.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
People who are working for a foreign government accusing you, who just want to stay out of it, of working for a foreign government. Is that what gaslighting is?
Yeah. Gaslighting is when the media takes something very reasonable you're saying and makes it sound like it's crazy. Like, so we say we gave them $21.7 billion in the middle of a genocide. Okay. So that's on top of the $300 billion, right? And that's, by the way, 10 to 12 billion we spent bombing Iran, Yemen, and almost all their enemies in the same period of time. We just gave them another 8.6 billion and another 3.3 billion. That happened in the last 2 weeks. So when you say, let's just take one sliver of that. Hey, I didn't want to pay for a genocide. I didn't want to do that, right? Whether it was the Thai, the Bulgarians, the Israelis.
Doesn't matter.
I don't want to kill 20,000 children. I don't want you to spend my money killing 20,000 children. I don't care what race or religion they are.
Why are you so hateful?
Exactly. And that's literally what they say.
No, I'm against killing kids. They didn't do anything, actually.
Yeah. And they say, so you hate Jews. That's gaslighting, right?
Okay.
Right? So wait.
I live in that country. Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah. So I'm the one trying to stop the killing. I'm for nonviolence. In fact, I'm religiously for nonviolence. If I have any religion at all, it's nonviolence. My heroes, Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Mandela. And so I say, do not do any violence to anyone. It would be, in fact, if someone is doing violence, they're against us, right? And I say, and you just heard me say it. I say it 1,000 times. I love Jewish people. This is not about the Jews. So, but this country wants us to pay for a genocide. I just don't want to pay for a genocide. They listen to all that and they go, now everybody understand that Cenk Uygur is an anti-Semite who hates Jews and is like an immoral person. And if you're not pro-genocide, you're anti-Jewish. No, don't say that. Don't say that because you're actually going to get my Jewish friends hurt. When you say you're anti-genocide means you're anti-Jewish, that equates Judaism with genocide. Don't. Yeah. I don't know anything that drives up anti-Semitism more than that. But back to the original injustice, and then we'll get back to more and more gaslighting because the gaslighting is another perfect symbol of what mainstream media does and establishment media does, right?
Yes.
They gaslight on almost every issue. So real quick, one more, like Big Pharma. We can't negotiate drug prices. They're like, that's pro-free markets.
No negotiation.
Wait.
That's capitalism.
Not being able to negotiate prices is the exact opposite of the free markets. Everything on television is a lie. It's all an illusion.
That's very funny. I've never really thought about it like that, but that is so true.
I mean, why are we not rebelling against the biggest socialist or communist program in American history that we're not allowed to negotiate drug prices? What kind of absurdity is that? And we're the only country on earth that applies to. So it just they're like magicians. Establishment media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, New York Times, Washington Post. They're like, look here. Meanwhile, the action is going on here.
Argument, as I remember, I was never involved in this, but I was in, libertarian adjacent world a lot of my life. And so I remember hearing that argument and I remember thinking, yeah, what is that? And they were like, no. If you are allowed to negotiate drug prices, you will kill pharma innovation in the United States and we lead the world in innovation. I'm like, okay, I guess. I didn't realize that a lot of pharma is just poison anyway. This is before the Sacklers, killed a lot of people in Appalachia. And I was like, okay. But then you watch pharma offshore. Like they offshored. Like New Jersey, you grew up in New Jersey, was a pharma stronghold. Basking Ridge, that whole area is filled with pharma companies that are making the drugs there. They are not anymore. We don't make antibiotics. We don't make vitamin C. We don't make all these drugs because they offshored them. So we protected them from fair competition by eliminating negotiation, and they left anyway. So like what? What's the upside here?
I give you 1,000 examples. We gave the semiconductor industry $50 some odd billion under Biden. That was the CHIPS Act. And all the Democrats are like, he's FDR 2.0. I'm like, guys, that's a $50 billion corporate subsidy. Okay. And did we put any guardrails in? So did we say, hey, Intel, here's at least 8 of the $50 billion going straight to you. I think it might've been 12 in that ballpark. So now as condition to that, you're supposed to build here in America, so you can't fire any Americans. If you fire any Americans, then obviously we're not going to give you the money because the ostensible reason for us giving you the money is to build a semiconductor industry here in America.
Exactly.
Right? Intel fired 8,000 people right after the bill passed because there's no guardrails. Because why? Intel wrote the bill.
8,000 Americans?
8,000 Americans, of course, immediately. They fired them immediately. It's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. None of the politicians mean it, and the people that allow them to get away with all of this. So all of that is the robbery, right? Mainstream media is the getaway car. Okay, so they come in and they make excuses. Oh, FDR 2.0, it's brilliant to give away your money to the semiconductor industry. It's brilliant to give it away to Big Pharma and to Israel. And if anybody objects, they're conspiracy theorists and anti-Semites, et cetera. Their job is not to cover the news, it's to cover up the news. So, I mean, again, look at
that is literally true.
Yeah. So Obama ran a campaign ad called Billy back in 2008, and it was about the deal to not negotiate drug prices. It was outrageous. Everyone hated it. A Democrat named Billy Tauzin had negotiated it in Congress. That's why the ad was called Billy. And Obama was saying, I'm not going to be like those Democrats, right?
Yeah.
He got in, said, we're not negotiating drug prices. Trump said, we're going to negotiate drug prices. Not going to negotiate drug prices.
So I knew Billy Tauzin really well, a wonderful guy from Shack Bay, Louisiana. Just a really charming guy. I used to hunt with him a lot. And I always loved him, still do. But he went from Congress to what, do you know what his next job was?
Lobbyist.
Head of?
Big Pharma.
Exactly. He was the head pharma lobbyist.
And that's my point, Tucker.
I'm not attacking him, but that happened. I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what?
So mainstream media looks at that and goes, no, I don't see it.
I don't see it.
I don't. Big Pharma gives more, like 4 times more than the Israeli lobby does. And they're like, no, I don't see it. I'm like, isn't the adage follow the money? Like, so here is an industry giving billions of dollars to politicians. That's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
5,000 at a time, right? And then to super PACs, et cetera. They seem like they're bribing almost all of Congress. Nope. Conspiracy theory. I had a...
Because they're bribing all the media, too, with drug ads.
Of course! That's their number 1 advertisers are drug companies. Number 2 advertisers, by the way, are politicians. Why do they always say that politicians are honest and they're having real debates? Because politicians are actually their top clients. So when you spend $17 billion in money in politics, where does it go? It goes almost all to establishment media to buy ads. So the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are the best clients that CNN, New York Times have. So they are always talking about how great the Republican and Democratic parties are, how terrible primaries are. Primaries use up that money. We didn't get all those bribes to spend it in a primary. We got it to have a fake fight in the general election where you pick the lesser of 2 evils. Ha ha, we got you. So that's the Rosetta Stone, money in politics. Once you see how politics works and you also see how media works, which then leads us back to Israel. So we say, guys, they have contributed, Guardian did a piece on this, the Israeli lobby has contributed to 94% of Congress. Okay, first, do you think they did that for their health, for the general welfare, or do you think that every group they have is named after Israel because the whole point is to support Israel, right? That's not a complicated question. It's the American Israeli Political Action Committee. It's got Israel. One of the groups is called Democratic Majority for Israel. They ran $4 million worth of ads against Nina Turner, which is one of Bernie Sanders' campaign chairs, to make sure that she was defeated by Shontel Brown. Shontel Brown was one of 11 people running against Nina Turner, had almost no ratings at all. Nina had a 35-point lead. She was running against the Lilliputians. Shontel Brown puts a statement on her website saying how much she loves Israel. Boom, $4 million appears. All in favor of Shontel Brown, all against Nina Turner. That's her raising her hand saying, I will work for Israel.
And what happened in the end?
So they erased a 35-point lead. They bought every ad in Cleveland. And most importantly, they got mainstream media to say, now remember, Nina Turner hates Joe Biden, so she loves Donald Trump. Now that's Cleveland voters. They don't want that, right? Now, is that true? No. She has said a statement that voting for Biden is like eating a half bowl of shit. But, okay, but she said, but voting for Trump is like eating a full bowl of shit. So what am I going to do? I'll eat the half, right? They never, ever put the second half of the statement in. They just said in every news story, whether it's on TV or in the newspapers, Nina Turner says voting for Biden is eating a half bowl of shit. She's so a Trump favorite. But how could she be pro-Trump? The rest of the sentence says he's twice as bad. So people in mainstream media are giant liars. They've lied about me all the time. They lie about Republicans, Democrats, but mainly they lie to protect the donor class. So then, again, back to Israel, and because it's such a perfect symbol, 94% of Congress. It's not 34%. You add 34%, you can say, yeah, they have a lot of control. That's a lot of money that they're giving to a third of our Congress. At 64%, you'd say, come on, they have enormous power, if not control. And 94%, it's clearly control. Further part of that Guardian story is 82% of Congress votes basically with Israel every single time. That 82% on average gets 100, just in that last election cycle, let alone all the other ones, $125,000 per member of Congress. Now, establishment media says that's not a bribe. They're just talking to one another. Oh, hey, how you doing? Here's $125,000 so you'll vote for Israel. But it's not so you'll vote for Israel. It's so you can have a better debate or whatever. And they're like, of course, that's not a bribe. And they don't control those members. Well, how come they vote with Israel every single time? Why don't you follow the money? I thought the old adage of journalism was follow the money. And every time we ask you to follow the money, you call us an anti-Semite. That's really, really weird. That's a super weird thing to do. Again, Mad Lib, fill in any other country. Imagine that Bulgaria was giving to 94% of Congress.
Or Great Britain or Sweden.
Or any country.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And you said, well, it seems like the Bulgarians have 94% of our Congress locked up. How dare you, anti-Bulgarian racist, you Bulgarist? Right? It would be absurd. It would be absurd. So, of course, you have to point this out. So, and what have they gotten in return for the hundreds of millions that Aipak and other Israeli lobby organizations have put into Congress? And at this point, they've probably put in over $1 billion collectively over all those years. So, well, what they've gotten back is over $300 billion in funding through the lifetime of Israel, adjusted for inflation. That's before October 7th. October 7th, we add that 21.7. You could argue 10 or 12 billion more for the wars we're fighting for them. Those are not free. Every time we drop a bomb on Iran or Yemen or Nigeria, it costs us money.
Or Iraq.
Or Iraq.
That's why we did that.
Yeah. But look, if you get into that, the global war on terror, which is, if we're being honest, the global war against Israel's enemies, costs us $8 trillion.
Right.
So Israel's lucky if we don't count that $8 trillion.
It's why we're bankrupt.
Yeah. I mean, here we are at $38 trillion. And Tucker, that's the other amazing part. So now in the last 2 weeks, Trump gave another $8.6 billion, totally unaccounted. Where's that $8.6 billion coming from? Did anybody ever vote for that $8.6 billion? And then unabated, He gave another $3.3 billion. Where is this money coming from? Is anybody voting on this? What is going on? And
well, it's debt. These are IOUs to countries that are buying our treasuries.
Exactly. So that's the next layer of it. So you're telling us we have to borrow money from China and Japan so we can give money for free to Israel, and then we pay the interest for the rest of our lives, and they don't pay any interest. Well, why don't they borrow it from China and Japan?
Exactly.
Why are we borrowing it and give it to them?
Who are, profoundly pro-Israel and really think about it a lot, care about it a lot, have friends and family, they're great. Why don't they, and some of these people are worth billions and billions and billions, why do taxpayers have to pay for this? Why don't they just donate the money to Israel? I'd never have understood that, and no one will answer that question.
Because of leverage and economies of scale. So let's take Larry Ellison as an example. So to be fair to Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, he actually did the thing that you say. He gave $16 million to the IDF in the middle of the genocide as a donation.
Well, how about $5 billion? I mean, that's $16 million it's not much, actually.
Yeah, so I'm going to get back to that. So he's like, hey, genocide, well done. Keep genociding. Here's 16 million more. It's an outrageous thing to do. But okay, you love Israel. You love that they're committing a genocide against Palestinians. You despise Palestinians. You're deeply racist, and you're a bigot against Muslims. That's your business, Larry Ellison. Okay. So, but now he thinks, wait a minute. What if I give to American politicians, and then instead of me giving the $5 billion or the $50 billion, we get the sucker American taxpayers to give it. Right? So now how can I do that? It's actually simple.
It's so dishonorable that I can't really even fit that in my head.
To folks,
I don't force other people to pay for charities I support. I mean, I support them because I support them. I mean, that's what integrity is. I can't imagine sticking a gun in someone's face and say you have to donate to my charity.
Yeah. So, and in this case, it's not a charity. It's a
but a cause government that you believe in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then Dropsite News has done some terrific reporting, and they found emails of Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, and others.
Can I say it? Dropsite News has done some amazing reporting.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
And in fact, the way that establishment media is not covering their stories shows you what a joke it is.
Dropsite News breaks more story. I wasn't really sure what it was until recently. They're breaking more stories than the New York Times, Washington Post put together by far.
Yeah, it's not an accident. That's because they're trying to break stories. And
yes,
the New York
they are.
Times is trying to do the opposite. And the Epstein stories are amazing, and we should get back to that.
They're unbelievable. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that.
No, absolutely. So Dropsite News found emails of Larry Ellison talking to the Israeli ambassador. And he says, this is back in 2015, 2016, that campaign. And he says, I'm going to go vet Marco Rubio for Israel. Now, remember, Larry Ellison's ostensibly an American, okay? But he's talking to the Israeli ambassador and says, I'm going to make sure Marco Rubio is on Israel's side. Then he goes and talks to him at a party. He comes back and then reports back to the Israeli ambassador. Don't worry, he's on our side. I'm giving him $5 million for his super PAC. By the way, at that time, that's against Donald Trump, okay? So that's Larry Ellison saying, I'm basically buying Marco Rubio on behalf of Israel. So that doesn't even go to Marco Rubio's AIPAC tracker. On an AIPAC tracker, he's over $1 million from the Israeli lobby, but they've got all this secret money and their super PACs and all the other things that they have. And in that case, he's caught because we have his emails. So don't tell me he's not working for the Israelis when we have emails showing he works for the Israelis. And then what is the consequence of that? Hey, look at that, Marco Rubio's Secretary of State. And now we're going to war against Iran, maybe Venezuela. We're doing everything that Israel wants. And so that's a nice break they caught. What a coincidence. And by the way, this is not a partisan issue. You had Obama's former speechwriter go out the other day and say, we probably overtaught the Holocaust to our kids. Okay. This woman, I think Sarah Hurwitz, but if I've got the name wrong. That's
right.
Yeah. So that's off the top of my head of who she is, but Obama's speechwriter. And she says we taught them the Nazis were strong and oppressed the weak, but now Israel is strong and targeting the weak. So we shouldn't teach that anymore. I'm like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear what you're saying? And then at Free Press, somebody wrote an article about, our kids, they're against genocide now. What did we do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. You taught them a wonderful thing. You taught them Jewish culture. Never again stick up for the underdog, question authority.
You can't murder innocents. I mean, that's like a baseline. You can't murder people who didn't do anything wrong. because it is murder. There's
Yeah.
no justification for killing innocent people ever.
So if you think about it, let's just take the Marco Rubio example. And I'm not putting it all on Rubio. It's a giant institution and infrastructure. And like I said, it's 94% of Congress, right? But you put in $5 million to Marco Rubio. A decade later, he's Secretary of State. And in the middle of your genocide, you got $21.7 billion. Now, if you're Larry Ellison, do you want to put in the $21 billion yourself? Or do you want to put in $5 million to a politician and then you get the $21 billion for free?
The problem is that it treats the people who are giving the money against their will. There's never been a vote on this. It would, if there was a national referendum on should we be sending tens of billions of dollars to a country, not our own, of course it would fail immediately. But it treats those people very badly as kind of subhuman. Like, who cares what they think? We're just going to take their money, indebt their children onto the generations, and it's just the contempt that displays for Americans is unsettling to me.
So I have a proposal on that, Tucker. So why don't we do a poll? And I challenge CNN, New York Times, Gallup, anyone to do this poll. And if none of them accept the challenge, then we'll do the poll. We'll commission the poll, and then we'll see. And then they could verify it if they like. And the poll is, does America owe Israel any more money? Because every pundit on television say, we owe Israel. We owe Israel. They never explain why, right?
People really say that?
All the time. They say, okay, what do you mean, $300 billion? You owed Israel. Of course you should pay them $300 billion. Why did I pay them 21 or 31 billion in the middle of a genocide? You owe Israel. Why do I owe Israel? No one ever explains.
I've never heard that. They actually say that out loud. We owe them?
Of course.
For what? Where's the debt from?
Yeah. And and when I press on every one of these talking points, that's part of why they despise me, right? And I say, okay, help me understand that. Why would we owe Israel? Well, they suffered a Holocaust, the Jewish people. Well, first of all, the Jewish people did, not Israel, right? That's different. Okay, but wait, we rescued them from the Holocaust.
And all those Americans died. A lot of them, hundreds of thousands of Americans died fighting that war.
If we rescued them from the Holocaust, why do we owe them money? It's like none of these talking points make any sense. If all you do is, just prick the bubble and people instantly go, oh, wait a minute, lift the curtain. So here, we rescued
But they'll actually say that?
Yeah. So the Bosnians, right, for example, right, we rescued them from a genocide from the Serbs, right? And I'm proud of that. And I think we did, we saved tons and tons of lives. And you can say, maybe we shouldn't have interfered. Maybe we should be more isolationist. It's a good debate, but at least we did something demonstrably good there, okay? Did the Bosnians, after we rescued them from the genocide, come and to say to us, you owe us? No, they said, thank you. By the way, you won't find anyone on this planet who loves Americans more than Bosnians, okay? And so they love America. They appreciate America. Poland lost 5 million people in the Holocaust, 1.8 million non-Jews, 3 million Jews. So after the Holocaust, Poland could have said, you owe us. No, we saved Poland. Russia saved Poland. We saved Jews. Russia saved Jews. By the way, did Russia ever get a thank you after losing, 20 million or so people in the war, right? Instead, now Israel's constantly attacking Russia. I got no love for Russia. I think Putin is wrong. I don't think he should have invaded Ukraine. But wait a minute. Why does anybody owe Israel for anything? It doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So now they want a new memorandum of understanding. They were going to try to make it 20 years, and partly because of you and us and all the people that are going, wait, why? That a memorandum of understanding is the president saying, we owe you for the next 10 years, 20 years, et cetera.
And that's an agreement between the United States and Israel.
Yes. So, for example, Obama signed a 10-year memorandum of understanding saying we owe Israel $3.8 billion every year for 10 years.
So no votes on it during that period.
The only votes you get is it gets put automatically into the budget every year. And once it gets put in, you have to actively take it out. But if you have to go to take it out, they'll call you an anti-Semite and try to ruin your career. I have amazing stories about that. Marie Newman, a U.S. Congresswoman, voted against one of the appropriations that Israel got. 4 Democratic colleagues come on the floor of the House and say, how dare you? How dare you vote against Israel? We're going to take away all your money.
Actually?
Yes, you could ask Marie Newman about it. She said it on the Young Turks. This happened just a couple of years ago. Okay, she was in Congress from Illinois. They said, we're going to take away all your money and we're going to spend a ton of money against you.
Her own party?
Yeah, her own party. And that's what happened. They spent about $4 million against her, eliminated.
No way.
Andy Levin, a Jewish American congressman from Michigan, kind of a legendary Jewish family in Michigan.
Yeah.
Carl Levin was a senator.
Yeah, Sander Levin, yeah.
Yeah. Andy Levin says two-state solution. He says, I love Israel. I'm a Zionist. Okay. But obviously we should have a free and independent Israel and a free and independent Palestine. $4 million against Andy Levin, eliminated.
No way.
Eliminated. Jamal Bowman, you think it was about the fire alarm? Right? You might be upset about the fire alarm or whatever else Jamal Bowman did. The Israeli lobby spent $19 million eliminating Jamal Bowman. Cori Bush, eliminated. Okay. Anyone who opposes Israel is eliminated.
I've heard of any of this. I knew about Jamal Bowman, but the rest I didn't. So I wonder about that strategy, which they're now employing on the right and trying to slandering people as Nazis or trying to get them killed, which they're doing. But I wonder, like, as a strategy, obviously it's immoral, but does it actually work? Isn't it better to say, as you would in any negotiation, like, here are the things I actually care about. Let's see if we can come to terms. Like, allow a little bit of flexibility. There's no flexibility allowed.
Well, Tucker, congrats. You have forced Israel into some flexibility almost single-handedly.
I don't feel that at all. I feel that because I've never been against Israel, and I'm not against Israel now. I'm not against any person, actually. And I'm certainly, as a Christian, totally opposed to hating a group based on its blood. That would include whites, blacks, Hispanics, Turks, and Jews. And I mean that. So whatever, I've really tried to be like, whoa, let's settle this down. It doesn't work. And I just wonder, that doesn't seem like a good strategy. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, just as a negotiating position, it's like you have to have some willingness to move. You can't be that rigid or you're not going to win in the end.
Yeah. So the reason I said that is because, look, first let's distinguish. There's mainstream media purposely blends all these things together, partly because Israel wants to use Jewish Americans as human shields. They want to say, if you're attacking us, you're attacking Jewish Americans. And so you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to, right? But in reality, there's Jews as people / Jewish Americans. Then there's how you feel about Israel. Then there's how you feel about the Israeli government, right? We are talking about the current Israeli government. And they say, no, you're talking about Jews, because they want to hide behind that, right? When we keep saying, no, not the Jews, and they're like, no, the Jews, we're like, stop saying the Jews. It's not the Jews.
Well, moreover, I get to define what I think and what I'm talking about. And let me repeat myself. I think anti-Semitism is immoral and I won't engage in it ever, period. So I get to decide, because I'm a sovereign man, what I think, and I can try to express it as well as I can. No one has a right to tell you what you think.
Yeah, it's really obnoxious to the.
Well, it's Orwellian. It's like, are you in charge of my soul?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think you are.
So, for example, I'm an atheist. So what does that mean? That means I think all humans are pretty much the same genetically, right? I'm stone cold. So if you told me a Jewish, a Muslim, a Christian, a Hindu is different, I'm philosophically opposed to that. I'm ideologically opposed to that. I'm scientifically opposed to that. I just think it's wrong. It's not. Yes. It's incorrect, factually incorrect. So that is a distraction, and they've now weaponized the term anti-Semitism, which also does a lot of damage. Because when real anti-Semitism comes, people will think, oh, those are the heroes fighting against the genocide, right? That's what I was told.
But it also scares people. I mean, I've experienced this a lot in my personal life, where people I know and love have been convinced that I'm, Nazi or Nazi adjacent or hate Jews or whatever, and that I'm trying to hurt people, which is literally the opposite of what I would ever want to do. I don't agree with that at all. And I say that constantly, but they've whipped people into a frenzy, preying upon their deepest fears. And there are many victims of that kind of evil, but one of the victims is the people who are being terrified. Like 100%. People are terrified.
I think actually the number one target of Israeli propaganda is Jewish Americans.
Oh, of course.
They say, if it's not for Israel, the whole world hates you and you're all going to die. You're all going to die. Everyone hates you.
And it's an unreasonable hate. It's a hate that can't be even reasoned with or discussed. You don't have to know anything about why people disagree. It's hate. It's fundamentally irrational, and it will never end. And until they kill you or you kill them, it's like, whoa, that is a very heavy thing. First of all, it's untrue. Second, you're inspiring violence by talking like that. I mean, the only endpoint of that kind of thinking is violence. It can only be solved by violence. Kill or be killed. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, and so again, Mad Lib it, say, okay, let's say that you oppose something the Turkish government did, which I hope you do because they've done plenty of bad things. I oppose a bunch of things that the Turkish government has done. If after you
I just don't like Turks. That's my problem.
But I mean, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
If you said, hey, I don't think the Turks should have gone into northern Syria, and I say anti-Turkish racist, you'd be like, what? What kind of lunatic are you, right? That's not a thing. That doesn't, just because you disagree with the actions of a government at this time doesn't mean that you hate Turks in perpetuity forever and ever. You hated them before, you hate them after. No, I just don't agree. Look, I didn't agree with the Iraq war. Does that mean I hate Americans? No, it means I don't agree with that government action taken at that time.
Of course.
And all of that is very logical until you get to Israel, and then they flip it on its head.
But can you see how irrational and fear-based the conversation is becoming, and the cost to American society, not even having anything to do with Israel, but just that way of thinking is a scary way of thinking. First of all, it's identity politics in its purest form. This group versus that group. This group has special rights. This group has fewer rights. I mean, this is everything that I hate and I disagree with as a Christian. But can you see the cost to the whole society because of this?
Enormous cost. So,
making people hate each other.
Yeah, look, I'll go back to the stats on how awful the genocide was and all of that. But to me, at least as bad is the control over this country. Okay. And I came here to be free. And I came here for American sovereignty.
How old were you when you came?
8 years old. My family came here because my dad is an enormous believer in America. Like,
yes.
You won't find a family who loves America more than we do, right?
Yes.
And by the way, he had that belief and faith, and it was met. We came here, and that faith was true. That hope was delivered. And we have lived amazing lives in this country because of the opportunity and the hope that this country provided.
Yes.
And by the way, our answer to that is thank you.
Amen. Right? I feel that way. I feel grateful.
Yeah, I'm enormously grateful to America.
Yeah.
And by the way, when America helps you, the correct answer is thank you, not you owe me. Okay, give me more. That's not the correct answer.
Right.
And it's not taken as a correct answer from any other country. But when it comes to Israel and they say, no, give me more, right? We're supposed to say, oh, thank you, sir. No, I don't want to say thank you.
You have children. How would you respond to your children if they said that to you?
Oh, that would be a mistake for them. Yes.
Oh, you can't.
And there would be consequences.
You can't put up with that. Not for 1 second. You degrade yourself. You hurt the person you're dealing with because you inspire more of that behavior, which is totally bad behavior. Yeah, it's so unhealthy. I mean, how do we get into this?
Yeah, let me give you two examples about how they are taking our freedom away. Okay, so a friend of mine runs a company in LA. He gets an email from what looks like probably a bot, but it could be an Israeli troll, whatever it is. But somebody writing in saying, we found out that one of your American workers is an anti-Semite and you should fire her. And he's like, really? Oh, I didn't know that. What did she do? Did she attack someone? Did she say something outrageous? And he finds out that she had put up a Palestinian flag during the genocide in support of like, hey, I'm against the genocide, these poor people, on her Facebook account. That's it. Nothing against Israel.
You're allowed to have that view. You can support the Palestinians. You can support Hamas. You can support whatever you want as an American.
But she's not supporting Hamas.
I get it. But let's just remind ourselves that we have a full range of intellectual freedom because of the First Amendment and because God gave us those rights, not any administration. So you cannot allow infringement on those rights.
She doesn't even say anything against Israel, let alone Jews. She just says, just has the Palestinian flag. They're like, that's just an average American. It's not Tucker Carlson. It's not Cenk Uygur. She doesn't have a show. She's just a random American. Now, all of a sudden, the Israelis are emailing your boss and saying, if they dare even support the Palestinians, treat them as humans, they're anti-Semites and they should be fired. No, that's oppression. That's oppression, and it's against the average American. I can't stand it. Okay, so you and I get attacked.
Certainly is oppression.
Yeah,
exactly
nonstop. But I get it. We're in the media. We're in wars, right? These information wars, these media wars, etc. But leave average Americans out of it,
of course.
They won't tolerate it. They won't tolerate any dissent at all.
What is that?
Because so you know why, Tucker? It's worked for them. So now that leads to the second example, Barry Weiss, right? So Barry Weiss claims she's like Remember when she was at the New York Times, she's fighting against cancel culture. Our college campuses have been taken over by cancel culture.
Well, she promoted cancel culture when she was on the campus of her college, Columbia, when she pushed for anyone who was against Israel to be silenced. I mean, she's always been for cancel culture.
Exactly. So she actually started her career as a student who went around saying, I'm proudly Zionist, and I'm going to try to take out Arab and Muslim professors who don't toe the line for Israel. So she got famous doing cancel culture on college campuses.
Oh, I remember very well.
Then she pretends in the middle of her career that she's against cancel culture, specifically on college campuses. I mean, the lie is so brazen, right? And then she goes to Free Press and then starts cancel culture again on college campuses. They spoke out against Israel. They should be fired. They should be arrested.
Oh, yeah.
It's wait.
I'm a dangerous Nazi.
Yeah, wait. You're talking about arresting Americans for disagreeing with another government, with another country. I mean, if you're not bothered by that, then you have a servant mindset, right?
Yes.
These folks obviously have 94% of Congress. They obviously, pro-Israel factions have almost all of establishment media. We can come back to why, okay? And I'm okay with it. I will serve them. Well, I'm not okay with it. I don't want to bow. I love that America's free. We came for that freedom, and that freedom is delivered for us. But I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give it away to anyone. If I wanted to give away my freedom, I would have stayed in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Okay. I came here for the promise of America. Our family did. So, and you know, among Muslim Americans, there is no group. I was born Muslim. I'm atheist now. Okay. So at 22, I went through the religions. It wasn't for me. Okay. But am I going to defend my family and my background? Sure I am, of course, right? But ideologically, I'm atheist. So this country had room for me, and this country didn't ask, are you Muslim? Are you atheist? Right. Are you this? Are you that? It gave me the same rights as anyone else. And I love that. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, Erdogan's taking away democracy in Turkey, in my opinion.
Yes.
And he's done some good foreign policy, but his domestic policy, I'm against, okay? If I stayed in Turkey, I would almost certainly be in prison at this point, right? And here I'm not in prison.
No.
And if you turn America into an occupied nation, that's not what we came for. That's not what, I mean, that is against the core of what America is. And if they're paying 94% of Congress, we're occupied.
Yes.
We are. And it's not just Israel. We're occupied by big pharma and big oil and the defense contractors. But all those politicians represent those people and not us. I would love, my driving goal is regain American sovereignty. And when I go to talk to Muslim groups, they say, look, now all of a sudden they're very open to the right wing. Why are they open to the right wing? Because you, Candace, Megan, and others are saying, hey, maybe we got fed a lot of propaganda to hate Muslims because they happen to be Israel's enemies.
Well, of course.
And so maybe all that media about how they're terrorists. And you look at it and go, wait, and we were taught by books that Robert Maxwell bought that Israel was attacked in 1948. Israel was attacked in 1967. Israel's always the victim. And then you look, you go, wait a minute, in 1967, Israel attacked. I was lied to. No, Israel attacked all of its neighbors and destroyed their military, their air forces before they even got up off the ground, right? And they called that a preemptive strike. So that became the new self-defense is offense. And what did we do in Iraq? Preemptive strike. We went into Iraq and they could have weapons of mass destruction. By the way, where did we get that false intelligence? Israel. At the time, Ariel Sharon was saying Iraq is Israel's number one enemy. Iraq at the time, by the way, hated Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda attacked us.
Of course, it was a Ba'athist government. It was secular. They had tons of Christians in the government.
Yeah, not only that, Al-Qaeda constantly attacked the local rulers. So if Saddam ever caught Al-Qaeda, he executed him on the spot, right? So in a sense, he's an ally of sorts, in that case, against Al-Qaeda.
And a counterbalance to Iran.
Yeah.
Which had held our hostages for over a year in 1979. So it's like, that was in no sense consistent with her interests. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11 at all, despite the many, many lies. I knew people who told those lies. Really, Steve Hayes wrote a whole book about it. It was a lie. No one's ever apologized. But those lies all served one imperative, which is fight Israel's enemies. I was there, so I know that that's true, and everyone knows that that's true, and you're now required to lie about it. It was just a mistake. It was not a mistake at all. It was totally intentional.
Yeah. And so when I give speeches to those Muslim groups and I talk about American sovereignty, that's when I get the biggest applause. Because who is the victim of another government meddling in the American government the most? Muslim Americans are. Yeah. Because, there's no equivalent. For any money that the Gulf countries or anything else puts into America, it doesn't get any power at all.
Okay, but the Turks, this is interesting because you were born in Turkey. You came here at your co-host on your show, or someone on your show, Anna Kasparian, is just a wonderful person, I think, but is Armenian. So one of the most famous feuds in history, one of the most famous genocides, was the Armenian genocide during the First World War. And here you are, good friends, and work together every day. And that, to me, is a huge part of the promise of America. You can leave your tribal wars in the countries of origin and come here and interact as equals under the American flag as citizens. Like, that is truly the vision. I think everyone, we imported tons of Irish in the 1840s into an Anglo country. They didn't eat each other. Those countries had hated each other for centuries, but they all came here and pretty much got along, sort of. Watching the Israelis import, which they are doing, and there are many proxies in the U.S., importing their ancient tribal conflicts into my country, telling me that as an Anglo multi-century American, my family, that I have to hate Muslims? Or so it's like, first of all, I'll decide who I hate, not you. It's not up to you who I hate. You're not in charge of me. And second, that's your battle. Why don't you keep it in the Levant? I don't want anything to do with that, right?
Yeah.
But now it completely dominates. You hate Muslims. It's like, first of all, I believe in Jesus. I'm not a Muslim, but I like a lot of Muslims, and I'm never going to say I don't.
And isn't that funny that they're like, if you don't agree to everything the Israeli government does, then you hate Jews. But if you don't...
I don't hate Jews, and I don't hate Muslims, and I don't want any part of their fight. Why would I?
But wait, Tucker. Then they go on to the second part of the sentence. So if you disagree with Israel, you're a bigot. Then they say, you have to hate Muslims. But wait a minute, I thought you were against bigotry. So you're not against bigotry.
So how is hate all Muslims any different from hate all Jews? Well, it's not.
It's not.
It's not, right? It's the same. But these, you have people who don't believe in universal principles, and that's kind of the core problem. It's like only certain types of hate are bad. Only certain kinds of bigotry are bad. No. If bigotry is bad, it's always bad because all people are created by God and they're inherently equal. They may have different abilities. They do have different abilities, but they have equal value. And if you don't believe that, which Barry Weiss doesn't, then you can with a straight face say, anti-Semitism is wrong. I agree with you, Barry Weiss. Hating Muslims is right. No. I don't agree with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't bring that into my country. Go away.
Yes. Laura Loomer, Mark Levin say all the time, you should hate Muslims. Muslims are the problem. Well, then you've lost your moral high ground.
Well, right? They don't believe in a universal principle. It's just identity politics. It's no better than any other form of identity politics. And it's all disgusting and immoral.
Exactly. So, whereas to your point, Anna and I do a show together, and that's an Armenian and a Turk doing a show together.
Literally. And a show called The Young Turks. I was like, when I first thought this was years ago, I was like, holy smokes. Yeah. People may not know what the Young Turks were, but whatever.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a beautiful thing about America? The promise
of America. Leave your ancient tribal conflicts in your countries of origin and come here and exist as equal citizens under the law. That is to me, that's the most American sentiment I can imagine.
Yeah. And by the way, when you do that, that doesn't mean that you leave your entire culture behind. Don't bring your food, don't bring your language, don't bring this, don't bring that.
I agree.
No. We've had, the Italians brought pizza, the Jews brought bagel and lox and pastrami, and the Chinese brought, it's great and wonderful. Love it. But you have to agree that America is your top identity.
Of course. Or else you're going to have Hutus and Tutsis murdering each other in your cities.
Yeah.
No. How about no?
You have to be an American. It means something to be an American. It means you put ancient tribal hatred aside. So when you look at the Young Turks, our audience is Armenians, Greeks, Jews, Muslims, Christians, everyone. And in the old world, that wouldn't have happened. That's why we came here, because we don't want the old world. We want this world of freedom and equality.
Amen.
right?
I just could not agree with what you said more strongly. I just really feel it.
Yeah. So back to the memorandum of understanding. Why?
Sorry, I'm a digressor.
No,
Jank.
I'm doing the same thing. Well, so they say 20-year. The new one we want is a 20-year memorandum of understanding. So we have to give you a 20-year contract, and they say the $4 billion that we're giving them currently per year, on top of everything else, is not enough. And they started talking about $5 billion. So wait a minute now, $5 billion, 20 years. We're talking about another $100 billion we're going to borrow from China to give to Israel, and then pay interest the rest of our lives.
And this is exclusive of. This does not include military obligations. So if there's another war, of course, we'll backstop it with missile defense or whatever, carriers in the region, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't even include that.
Yeah. So, but because they got so much pushback, this is the first time I've ever seen the Israelis give an inch. All of a sudden, Netanyahu comes and goes, maybe 10 years. Maybe we taper it off, right? It's total bullshit.
Maybe go away and never come back.
Yeah. How about that? So, look, I started a site, notanother.dollar.com. Okay. Notanother.dollar.com.
Is that a hate site?
They will call it that. So what we're saying is, look, two things. One is, number one, if a congressperson takes money from Israel, vote against them. Okay. Now, why? Because we want our representatives to be our representatives. It's not an outrageous ask; it's a bare minimum ask, right? And happy to apply to any country. Okay. But right now, Israel's the one giving to 94% of Congress. So there has to be some consequences.
I agree.
And so since we're peaceful and nonviolent, and by the way, again, violence destroys any movement. That is why a lot of times counterinsurgencies start the violence.
Of course.
Right.
Always.
So that they could destroy. So if anyone...
There's nothing more real than false flags.
Yes.
Just a fact. It's been a feature of warfare, hot and cold, from the beginning of history.
So if anyone proposes violence, they're on the other side, okay? Reject them, turn them into the authorities, okay? Zero violence so they cannot destroy the movement, okay? And because it's the right thing to do and it's the moral position, right? So what we're saying is, I also have operationconsequences.com. It goes to the same thing. So what are the consequences? Not violent, not hatred, not anything. Just if you vote with Israel to give them another $1, we're going to vote against you. And you know what? You don't have to cross party lines. That's what primaries are for.
Yeah.
So if you're a Republican, you never have to vote for a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you never have to vote for a Republican. Go into the primaries, and we're going to make two lists. One is, are you taking money from Israel? Okay, and that list already exists. You know, you have AIPAC tracker, et cetera. We'll put it up on the site so you can see, oh, these guys are taking money and these guys aren't. So when you see Tom Massey and he takes no money from AIPAC or any of the Israeli lobbies, you go, I might agree or disagree with Tom Massey, but at least I know he's honest. And he represents us and not a different government, okay? And the second thing we're saying is, did you give money to Israel? Or did you take money from Israel, and did you give money to Israel? So forget the past, because they all gave money in the past, okay? We're fair, clean slate. But going forward, you vote one more time for another $1 to Israel, and you're never going to get our vote, ever. It's a solemn pledge. Okay. Now you could sign the pledges on notanother.com or operationconsequence.com, but it doesn't matter. Create your own website, create your own pledge, create your own movement, or join the movement. Say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go to those sites. I want to do it on my show. Great. I love it. Right. I want to do it in a right wing way. Great. I love it. Left wing way. Great. I love it. Okay. But you've got to get the representatives some consequences.
It sounds like democracy.
Exactly. That's all it is. That's all it is.
So just inject the views of the people who own the government into the conversation about what the government should do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you, for example...
Radical.
If you do that poll, does America owe Israel any more money? My guess is an overwhelming majority are going to say no.
How would you get that poll? How would you get... I mean, do you think you could get CNN to take that poll?
Well, if they say that, no, we're not going to ask Americans that, then they obviously have an agenda. They claim to be objective, right?
CNN claims to be objective.
They're still pretending
I worked there for many years. Not objective.
Right. New York Times very much pretends to be objective. All right, then ask the question, does America owe Israel any more money? Okay. Now, if you say, maybe we're wrong, Tucker, right? Maybe the Americans come in and go, 80% of Americans say, yes, we owe Israel more money. Then we'll stand corrected. And we'll go, oh, our bad. Americans can't wait to give more money to Israel, no matter what the circumstances are. But wait, if it turns out 68%, 82%. Some significant majority of Americans say, no, we don't owe them any more money. Now, does the voice of the American people matter or does it not matter? And you know what the answer is, and that's why they won't do the poll, and that's why we'll do it for them. That's okay, right? Look, right now, 92% of Democrats say that what Israel did in Gaza was wrong. And that was before the election. And both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said, I don't care about my voters. I don't care about 92% of my voters. They couldn't have been any clearer. I'm going to serve Israel instead. Now, number one donor lifetime to Joe Biden is AIPAC. AIPAC gave Kamala Harris. Is that true? Yes. Over $11 million throughout his career. The Israeli lobby totally financed. Now,
$11 million just to Joe Biden?
Just to Joe Biden. Okay. And that, again,
I would have thought it was Citibank or the credit card companies.
So he was known as the senator from MBNA, which is a credit card company in Delaware. So he was literally known for corruption. Now, did you hear that in mainstream media from Objective CNN?
No, they gave his son a house. Right. I mean, it was pretty open. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Biden's trademark thing in Washington was do whatever the donors tell you. That's why the one promise he kept was to the donors. Remember, he said to them, nothing will fundamentally change. Because if you're at the top, you don't want anything to change.
Right.
Because then you might slip from the top. If you're at the top, you love the status quo. So you want a politician coming in telling you nothing will fundamentally.
So here's one question that I have that I don't have the answer to. So I understand that that's all consistent with the darker parts of human nature. I'm winning. I don't want anything to change. I get it. I don't even judge it. But the rest of the country is withering and dying, and that's measurable in life expectancy, for example. There's no way to argue that this is helping normal people, and they're not staying the same. They're going down by every measure. They're down to their personal health. Why are the people who run the country, our ruling class, like, it's not enough that they profit. It does feel like they're trying to hurt the people they rule. I've reached that conclusion. What is that?
So I'm most angry at our politicians, and I'm going to give you an analogy about that in a second. So Israel, Pharma, they're going to logically try to rob us.
Of course, I get it.
Right, I get it.
The king takes most for himself, but he also wants to make his people not die earlier, but they do want us to die earlier. What is that?
But it's so it's largely our representatives' fault. So I talked about Biden. Kamala took $5 million from AIPAC. Talked about that. Let's talk about Trump. So Trump in the first election in 2016 takes $100 million from Sheldon Adelson. Okay. So does Sheldon get something in return? Of course he does. Right. So he got a great number of things. A corruption charge largely went away with a small fine. The estate tax was dropped right in the nick of time before he passed away, saved them billions of dollars. You know where the Adelsons make most of their money?
Gambling.
In China.
Yep.
Okay.
Macau.
So, in Macau. So they're mainly a Chinese company, and they had to bring their money back from China to America. So they got a tax holiday. We don't get tax holidays, but they get tax holidays. And so the repatriation tax was brought down to about 8%. So instead of paying 35%, they paid 8%, which saved them billions of dollars. So then they take that money from China, bring it back to America. They give 100 to Trump. He runs again. They give another 100. He runs again. This time it's Miriam Adelson. Sheldon's passed away. His wife, Miriam, gives 137 to Trump. So now collectively they've given $337 million to Donald Trump's reelection campus. So now one of the things they wanted was taxes and other interests and defeat the unions and their casinos and all the things their wish list. But the main thing they wanted was for Israel. And Trump says it all the time. He doesn't hide it at all. He said it
in the Knesset.
Yeah. He said, look, you guys give me money, and Sheldon wanted me to move our embassy from, Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So I moved it for him. Like, you're not supposed to say that. Okay.
That's what I love about Trump. I love it when he just says it.
Yeah. So he's like, and then so they wanted this, and I gave him the Golan Heights. I said, go ahead, take it. Right. And whatever Israel asked, and he said, Sheldon came in here in my first term more than any other person. And he said, to be fair, he gave the most. Right. So if you give that much money, you get access and you get American policy. So now Miriam's up there going, maybe you should run for a third term and I'll give him $250 million. She said that on air next to Trump. So that is them rubbing it in our face, saying...
So that's the part I don't understand. Like, every country has a ruling class that derives the most benefit from whatever system is they're running. But it's the pretty undisguised hatred for Americans. Like, why the humiliation rituals? Why say that in public? Why basically give the entire country the finger? You have no control. If you step out of line, we'll send the police to your door. Like, you don't need to behave that way.
Yeah, this is relatively new.
There's hatred in there. That's how you behave toward people you really want to hurt.
Before, they were more subtle about it.
Right? Yeah, that's why I never said anything. I wasn't fully aware of it, but also it's like it's working. It's, whatever. I don't want to get involved in this. But all of a sudden, it's like, you're not allowed to live in the country that you were born in because you disagree with a foreign country. It's like, you don't need. Why are you talking to me like that? Who do you think you are? What are you doing?
So since they're starting to lose control now. Back to the American people overall, this was about 6 months ago. The numbers are probably starker now, but 60% of Americans said we don't want to support what Israel's doing with financing anymore.
60%?
60% for Gaza. Okay.
Wow.
They said we are not backing what Israel's doing, and only 32% said yes. So 2-1. Very, very, very clear. The American people 2-1. Don't give Israel any more money to kill more people in Gaza. Don't do it. And all of our politicians, Democrats and Republicans, are like, no, we're going to give them more money. We don't care. Shut up, American people. So why are they switching to this new, harsher tactic? Because I think they're going for intimidation. They've already lost the people. They've lost the propaganda wars. So they're just going for bullying.
Well, they don't intimidate me. And I'm totally happy to pay any price not to go along with this. Not because I hate Jews. I certainly don't hate Jews. But because I love my country and we have the right to act in our own interest and to say what we truly believe. And I will never bow to any other system voluntarily. And I feel like a lot of Americans, clearly you feel that way.
100%. America was not made for bowing. Okay, so
not to things that hurt my family. I'm happy to bow before God. I'm not too arrogant to bow, but I'm not going to bow to something that hurts my children. Like, I'm not going to do that.
No, they're not going to take our freedom away. So back to your point about the humiliation rituals. Then
why do that?
It gets way worse. In case you don't know this, for the folks at home, the Adelsons then lobbied Trump to get Jonathan Pollard back to Israel. Okay, so Jonathan Pollard's a traitor. I mean, as big a traitor as we have ever had in this country. Okay?
And a true hater of America. Says it out loud all the time.
Yeah. And he goes further. He endangers Jewish people by saying, if you're a Jew in America, you should work for Israel like I did and betray America. He says that, okay? So now this is as despicable anti-American character as you will find on planet Earth. So not only did they lobby to get him back to Israel, first of all, he should never have been let out of jail. Ever.
What did the Israelis do with the Navy secrets that he gave them? Do you know? They gave them to the Soviet Union. They gave them to the Soviet Union in exchange for refuseniks. I remember this. I know people were involved in it. And yeah, our top ally gave our national security secrets. This is in the middle of the Cold War. It's not a joke. These countries have nuclear weapons pointed at each other. And Israel gave those secrets to the Soviets. So that's just a fact. Oh, you're lying. I'm not lying.
Yeah. And in this case, not only, so they've been lobbying Democrats and Republicans to get Jonathan Pollard out of jail because he delivered for Israel. And so they got Obama to pardon him, and not pardon him, but like say, okay, he can get out of jail. Then they got Trump to say he can leave the country. Okay, so this is all already disastrous. But just to rub it in a little bit more, he was flown back to Israel on a private jet owned by Sheldon Adelson. That's the Adelson saying, F you. We work for Israel, not for America. We're going to take the worst traitor you've ever had and celebrate him. We're going to give him a hero's welcome.
I don't understand that. That is not in my personal range of like emotions. That's like, you won. Got it. Okay, great. You know, you're getting what you want. Okay. But that's like if you're playing tennis with someone and you crush them in tennis, rather than going up and shake hands, you know, good game. That's what I was forced to do as a child. You leap across that and like beat him to death with a racket. What is that impulse? I think it's the scariest thing I've ever seen.
They're going for full intimidation. Right.
But why?
Because they lost the American people. We're gone. So look, Tucker, you're arguably the biggest show in the right wing, right? And you certainly were on Fox, and you have the numbers to back it up now, right? We're arguably the biggest show on the left. This is you could argue that it's the heads of the families getting together on behalf of the American people, saying the right and the left. And then, by the way, we can bring in any independents. You could bring in Tim Dillon, anyone else, and they will say the same thing. Enough. Yeah. We have no hatred in our hearts, okay?
I don't.
But enough. So not another dollar, and we're done with you guys. And hey, good luck. Good luck with Iran, right? But I don't have to spend $1 trillion fighting your war for you in Iran.
Agree.
I don't. And what if, look, and you know what they're doing, guys.
Pull back. This is so unhealthy, this relationship. Pull back. We both regain our sovereignty. Israel doesn't have sovereignty exactly either. I mean, I don't know, you could debate what sovereignty means, but they're totally dependent on the United States. That's not good. How's that good for Israel? And so let's just become normal countries again and then be friends. That seems like a good outcome to me.
Yeah, by the way, it's a terrific outcome for Israel. Right. So now when you total it all together, probably around $350 billion that they've taken from us, and and $8 trillion in wars we did for them. Take the win and go. It's time to take the winnings off the table. I
feel that.
Right. So if you say, no, I want another $300 billion. I want another $100 billion. I want you to pay for another war, and I'm going to take more of
And
Gaza.
you can't have the First Amendment anymore because you're not allowed to criticize me.
Yeah.
Okay. That's when I say, I'm not participating in this. Totally happy to go to jail for it. I don't care. I'm never going to participate in any effort by a foreign power or our own government to limit my birthright.
So, Tucker, let's talk about that, because there's so many things that Israel does that I'm not sure people are aware of. And why are they not aware of it? Because establishment media not only doesn't report on it, but actively covers it up. Right. And if you dare report on it, they'll call you names and try to ruin your career. Okay. So what have they done? First of all, the First Amendment is sacrosanct. So no, there is no exception to the First Amendment for Israel. And by the way, if you say there should be, you're trying to destroy our Constitution. Okay. So no, we're not going to let you destroy our Constitution. So no, nobody should be arrested on a college campus for writing an op-ed against Israel, an editorial saying that they should be sanctioned. That's all. That's what that Turkish PhD student wrote. And they're like, that's it, arrest her. What do you mean arrest her for her speech? What does that mean? And now, as I said, they're targeting American workers, trying to get them fired. The lady who put both of us on a list for, anti-Semite of the year, whatever, she went and gave a speech about, and by the way, everyone could look up every fact I'm saying. They can go find the videos for themselves, and they should spread it all over the internet. And she's on there going, we're going to find any American that opposes us, and we're going to try to ruin their lives. She said it. She's like, we're going to make sure they never get a job. They never get a wife, a husband. We're going to go after their families. I'm like, you're saying it out loud. You're saying it out loud, right?
We don't believe in blood guilt in this country, period.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why your family was able to move from Turkey and you wound up close friends with an Armenian because you're not responsible for what your ancestors did. That is a core American value.
Exactly. So then there's 31 states, I believe. Again, look it up. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 29. God bless. But about that area that have passed laws saying you're not allowed to boycott or divest or sanction Israel. And if you're an American company that does that, we're going to take away your contracts from the state governments. You will be punished severely, financially, your family, your business, etc., if you dare to disagree with Israel. What the fuck kind of law is that? And by the way, that's a lot of Democratic governors and a lot of Republican governors. If your governor is saying you must serve Israel, and if you dare to defy Israel, I'm going to take away your living, and I'm going to take away American government contracts from you, you should be livid about that.
Is there any law in the United States that you've heard of that says if you criticize the U.S. government, our Constitution, desecrate our flag? Like, I don't think there's any penalty ever for attacking the United States, and I'm not saying there should be, of course. But then how can there be penalties for disagreeing with a foreign country? You can say whatever you want about America, whatever you want, and people do it. I'm glad you can. But the second you're critical of Benjamin Netanyahu, you get punished by the U.S. government?
That's insane.
But that's the state of play. I don't think it's an exaggeration, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. Again, Mad Lib it. Put in any other country.
But even your own country, it's totally fine.
Yeah, you can criticize America all day long.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You can call for sanctions of America. You can call for boycotting America. You can call for you want to go after the Portuguese, okay? Imagine if they said you're allowed to criticize every country on earth, including your own, except Portugal. Why? Why except Portugal, right? But if you say why except Israel, anti-Semite.
Yeah.
And why do they say anti-Semite? It's to eliminate every voice of opposition to Israel in American conversation.
Are you ready for the consequences of this, though? I mean, you're a business owner. You're a father.
Yeah.
I'm not being melodramatic. I never talk about this stuff. I'm not going to now, but I'm just, let's be real. Like the reason people don't say obvious non-hateful things like you shouldn't be prevented from criticizing a foreign country in your own country. The reason they don't even say that is because they know what the real consequence, not a joke consequences. These are not people who are kidding.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that? Like, why'd you decide to do this? You don't need to do this.
Yeah. So we've already dealt with a lot of consequences, right?
Yeah.
And so, first of all, they tell folks don't do business with the Young Turks, or our.
You know that?
Yeah, I definitely know that. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And our network is called TYT. We got a 24-hour channel in all these places, everywhere but cable. And they say don't do sales, don't do investments, don't do anything because they're anti-Semites. Okay, so take away their money, and make sure that they don't survive. And then they do propaganda to the audience. That's less effective, but for a while it was effective. They're hateful people. They say they're on the left, but they they're bigots and they're this and they're that. And then every kind of attack against me. But the establishment media always hated me.
Why?
Because I'm populist left and they despise populism. So
they certainly do.
Yeah.
Why do they despise populism, do you think?
Because it's against the status quo. It's for change.
Yeah.
And if you're at the top, you don't want anything to change. They don't want to rock the boat because it's their boat.
That's why they murdered Huey Long. Populism has a pretty long and very violent history in the United States, reaction to it. You just get killed.
So do we get death threats all the time, right? Do we get threats of different sorts all the time? And if let's say that the Iranian government was threatening to kill me, or their supporters were threatening to kill me or my family, and they were doing all these attacks against our business, people would be, I think, outraged, right? And
would be.
And Jake Tapper would love to talk about the Iranians interfering with an American company and threatening Americans. We should do something about Iran, right? Israel does it. Shut up, you anti-Semite.
Oh, Jake Tapper hasn't defended you?
Jake Tapper's going to write a book one day. It turns out we were the problem. No one could have seen it coming. No, we see it now, Jake. You're the problem, okay? And so this whole defense of Israel, over-the-top defense of Israel, is absurd. It's insane, while pretending to be objective. And they actively covering up the news. Here, let's do more.
But why get involved?
Because I can't help it. I can't help but be free. And that's why I love this country. That's why it's just kind of made for me. Uniquely wonderful country for me and my personality. And I can't bow. I just can't do it.
I was on an airplane probably 20, 25 years ago with James Carville, who was my co-host at CNN, and, a great guy in some ways. A great guy, but very smart. And I said something about Israel, some humiliation. They were shooting into the Church of the Nativity, murdering a bell ringer. So I was like, I don't want to fight about Israel. I never have wanted to, but I said, that is just too much. I mean, whatever it was at the moment. And he goes, I'll never forget this. He goes, you want your kids to get into college? I was like, I guess. I had little kids, a lot of them. And he goes, then you'll shut up. I was like, you think that would affect my kids' ability to get into college? I'd never even thought of that before. Of course. Then you'll shut up. Quote, that's a verbatim quote. You want your kids to get into college and you'll shut up. And to my shame, I guess, I did kind of shut up for like 20 years. It's like, I don't want to deal with this at all. I've got all kinds of things I'm interested in. I'm not that interested in Israel. Love Jerusalem, but like, I don't want to get involved. So I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but that's real. And did you ever have a moment where you're like, maybe I don't, maybe I just ignore it. Let it slide.
Yeah. No. And so, Tucker, it happened to me. So there's a school, private school in LA. It actually happened to Anna too in two different ways. So, and we applied for my son to get into that private school. And one of my nephews happens to work as a volunteer in that school. And someone at admission told him that my son's application was going to be hurt because of his dad's positions on Israel.
Actually?
They actually said that out loud.
That's why the Israelis have been happy to murder tens of thousands of children in Gaza, because they believe in blood guilt. That's the truth. They say it out loud. Amalek, we believe in blood guilt. Like, the children are responsible for the sins of their parents. So we're going to kill them or not let them into the school. And we face this a lot in my family. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's a ramification for us personally. And as you know, Anna's husband is a coach at another private school, and they try to get him fired. And they demanded like some sort of Maoist apology where he denounces his own wife and calls her an anti-Semite publicly. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it.
His own wife.
Yeah. They're like, you must denounce your own wife. Otherwise, we don't feel safe. Okay. What is that? What is that? And so
we don't feel safe. You're threatening to wreck my family, but you're the one who doesn't feel safe.
Because it's always projection. They're always the victims. So, like, why do I say Jake Tapper? Like, Jake is just representative of the mainstream media overall. Israel keeps taking more and more land. You could see it on a map. They just took 53% of Gaza, and Jake and the rest go self-defense. No, but wait a minute, brother. I can see the map. Israel is growing. They say they want greater Israel. They're doing greater Israel. They're the ones that killed the Palestinians and then took their land. And Jake goes, no, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying ears. Israel is the victim. They're always the victim. They're going to fire you,
Who
but
does
they're
Jake
the victim.
work for? Like, why would you? That's absurd. Why would you say something like that? What is your mission?
Okay, and I challenge Jake. I challenge all of cable news anchors. So why don't you talk about, for example, one of hundreds of things that we've mentioned here, but another one is 9 Americans killed in Israel over the last 3 years. 9 Americans killed not accidentally, but by Israeli settlers or the IDF. Murder.
Actually?
You know how much?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Do you know how many consequences there's been? 0. Our government does not ask for them to be arrested. What do you mean? An American citizen is killed?
What about Mike Huckabee? He's the American ambassador.
Who just met with Jonathan Pollard, the traitor, in the U.S. Embassy without telling the CIA or Donald Trump. Mike Huckabee's not our ambassador. He's their ambassador.
I know.
Okay.
It's sad to see a man so degraded.
Yeah. So where's our justice for the 9 Americans killed? Are we going to even ask for justice? Or is Israel literally above the law? They can kill Americans and totally get away with it. Our government won't even ask for redress, right?
Well, I think we know that's true already.
But that's a fact. It's not
know.
disputable. And then you got Tom Alexandrovich. So he's the guy who is an Israeli cybersecurity official, goes to Vegas and looks to rape an American girl, right? So he's like, oh, this is a great opportunity for basically pedophile tourism. I'll go to America, and I know as an Israeli, I won't be held accountable. So he gets caught in a sting operation. Got him. Okay, good. Gets caught with 8 other Americans who were also involved in that operation. The 8 Americans are in jail right now in Nevada. Alexandrovich back to Israel. Free ride.
How?
But wait, you can't say that the Americans who did something terrible should be in prison. Great, wonderful, totally agree. But the Israeli is allowed to do it. And he can rape any American girl he wants here, and he gets a free ride back to Israel. No. So right now, he's technically under arrest, but our government isn't doing anything to try to get him back. No, we want him extradited.
But what about Mike Huckabee? Is he brokering an extradition? Because he tried to rape an American girl, you say.
That's a fact. No, Mike Huckabee is not doing anything. So the Americans killed, no consequences. Americans...
Did Mike Huckabee complain about the 9? You said 9 Americans have been killed?
Yes.
Did Huckabee say anything about it?
Not to my knowledge. If he said anything, it's been incredibly quiet. Okay. And hey, Mike Huckabee, if you want to prove me wrong, get out there and fight for it. Say, God damn it, they killed 9 Americans and I'll fight like hell. Forget tomorrow. Forget yesterday. Focus on tomorrow. Go get him, Ambassador Huckabee. Let's see what you got. Demand that they extradite Alexandrovich back to Nevada, where he faces consequences like the other people who were caught. Where are you? Where are you? I mean, this happens over and over again through since Israel has been formed. Robert Maxwell stole our nuclear secrets. The worst possible thing you could do. We didn't even arrest him. And when I looked into why didn't we arrest Robert Maxwell? Because it would have caused an international incident that embarrassed Israel. Well, they should be embarrassed. They stole our nuclear secrets when they were pretending to be our allies. They should be deeply, deeply embarrassed. No. Not only was Robert Maxwell not arrested, he was allowed to buy textbooks in America for that go into our kids' schools. We're letting a traitor like that, a guy, he wasn't American, but he was a British citizen. He was and he lived here, he lived there. And we're letting him buy the textbooks that go into our kids' schools after he stole our nuclear secrets. And eventually got a state funeral. Again, heroes welcome in Israel. Congratulations. Are we ever going to stand up for this country? So how about the spies we caught after 9/11? Okay, put aside whether they knew, didn't know what their activity was, but we rounded up dozens and dozens of Israeli spies. Okay, great job, FBI, CIA, whoever did it. Fantastic, really proud of you. And then we let them go back to Israel. Is that a thing we do? If we catch a Russian spy or an Iranian spy or a Dutch spy, do we go, oh, you're free to go? Aren't we supposed to arrest them and keep them in prison? But when it comes to Israel, there are no laws, there are no rules. They're allowed to do anything you want. And if you object, Jake Tapper comes out and calls you an anti-Semite.
So a year ago this week, the new president, right after inauguration, issued an executive order declaring that all files related to the Kennedy assassination, MLK, and Bobby Kennedy's assassination had to be released. And they haven't all been, unfortunately. But in tranches of documents that have been released in the last 12 months, we've seen again and again references to Israel have been, and there are a lot of references to Israel in the files around the Kennedy assassination, interestingly, have all been redacted. All been redacted for 62 years, 63 years. It's like, what? I don't understand. Like, why would that be? Why are there two monuments to Jim Angleton in Israel? The number two at CIA. I think it's all very, very odd. And you hear people complain about conspiracy theories, and I'm definitely against conspiratorial thinking because it drives you crazy. On the other hand, in the absence of transparency, that stuff grows like algae. I mean, what do you think? If you don't tell people the truth, like, what are they supposed to think? They're going to come up with all kinds of theories. Why would you redact references to Israel in the Kennedy files for 6 decades? Like, what is that?
That's almost an admission. So, like, I didn't know.
It's very odd. I'll say that.
So I didn't know that until recently. And again, establishment media never talks about these things. And again, it's not just about Israel. So, for example, on 9/11, we're redacting references to the Saudis.
Oh, I know.
Why? So they say, well, they're our allies. Well, if they're our allies, then maybe they shouldn't have had a hand in 9/11, right? They didn't have a hand in 9/11. Okay, great. Then show me the redacted part. No, I won't show you the redacted part. Okay, now this is weird. Now this is our government working for other governments. And what happened after 9/11? We rounded up all the bin Ladens. Yes, there were bin Ladens in America. And we rounded up all the Israeli spies. And yes, there was tons and tons of Israeli spies in America.
Following the 19 hijackers around the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what did we do? We rounded them up. Oh, great. We got them. And we released them back to Saudi Arabia and Israel.
Yeah.
No, that's our
government. And then
government.
we invade Iraq.
Yeah.
Which had nothing to do with it. And increased domestic police powers to the point where the country's not recognizable from what it was on September 10th, 2001. So
that's our government working for other governments.
Oh, I'm aware.
I can't stand it. So which leads us to Epstein. Okay, so here's another one. Drop Site News has proven definitively that, in my opinion, and we'll talk about the evidence, that Epstein worked for an intelligence agency and almost certainly Mossad.
Yeah.
Okay. And almost certainly the CIA knew it.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. So now what's the evidence? It's overwhelming. First of all, in all the emails, he is looking to help one country. No, it's not Finland. And no, it's not America. It's Israel. So how do we get cyber weapons to Israel? How do we get America to bomb Syria? How do we get America to bomb Iran? Okay. Hey, Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, I can set up a meeting with you with Putin. Wait, Epstein is so powerful, He can set up meetings that the former prime minister of Israel can't. He can call Putin anytime and get someone a meeting. Then we find out that he was in the middle of the Iran-Contra affair. He was the one switching the planes out. How many civilians were involved in the Iran-Contra affair? Easy answer, 0. There are no civilians involved in Iran-Contra. Everyone was intelligence, okay? So this guy switching out planes in the middle of Iran-Contra is obviously intelligence, and that's Jeffrey Epstein, okay? So Jeffrey Epstein was much more powerful than we realized. He could set up a meeting with almost any world leader. He could get almost anyone into the White House. Again, Ehud Barak has trouble getting into the White House. Epstein makes a call, boom, he's in the White House. Israeli spy stays over at Epstein's house. There's just no question about it. He is definitely intelligence, and in every turn, he's looking to help one country, and it's Israel. American media says, shut up. No. Jeffrey Epstein, New York Times has a story about how he's like a Forrest Gump. He just tripped over the money. And oh God, golly gee, he just happened to be an savvy investor. And nothing to see here. Now, Drop Site News already showed it. Why wouldn't you try to build on that? Why wouldn't you cover that? Is that not an interesting story? That
I think it qualifies. I don't understand. I'm not pretending to understand it, but it's certainly interesting.
It's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way.
And it seems significant too.
Yeah. If you're the New York Times or you're JTAP or you're CNN, disprove it. I don't want to believe something that's wrong. So show me, oh no, Drop Site News got it wrong. Those emails are wrong. It turns out he was working for Sweden. Okay. Or no one. Fine. But they don't do that. They don't disprove it. They don't prove it. They don't report on it. They never, ever talk about it. That is super weird. Super weird.
Well, speaking of an admission of guilt, yeah.
Yeah, because that is the most interesting story in a long, long time. Obviously, American people are captivated by it.
Yes.
Is the New York Times and CNN claiming that they're not captivated by it? No, they obviously are, right? And they report about it as it affects Trump all the time. Trump, right? I'm not saying that Trump didn't know Epstein. He did. I'm not saying they weren't great friends. They were, right? But
it's a bigger story, I think we can say.
It's a bigger story than just Trump.
Yes, I think it is.
Right? But whenever it comes to Trump, they're like, yes, it was Trump. It was Trump. Why? Magic. You don't want to have people look here. This is where the real action is. So get them to look here. Get them to look here.
Yes,
right?
It's three-card Monty.
Yes, it's all an illusion. Yes. So it's unconscionable not to talk about Epstein's connections to intelligence, including Mossad and including the CIA.
For sure. And British intelligence and French. And what was this? I mean, you get the sense that it reveals the superstructure beneath. It gives you a glimpse into how power is exercised globally, because it is global, right? And there's so much that I know a lot about the Epstein story, and I'm still totally ignorant about what that was. I really don't understand it, but it's obvious it's a third rail for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why right now there's a bit of a revolution going on.
Do you think there is?
There is. Yeah. And so again, another reason why they hate you so much, because the left wing was already gone, 92% disapproving of the actions of Israel in Gaza. And our politicians already gave us the middle finger and said, no, we'll lose this election rather than defy Israel. We'll lose Michigan. We'll lose swing states. We don't care. We serve Israel loyally. Okay. Now there's a bunch of Democrats that are against that. Ro Khanna being the leading guy, saying, no, I want to see the Epstein files. No, I think Palestine should exist. I don't know why everybody talks about Israel should be allowed to exist. Good news. They do. Right. And they have nukes and they have Iron Dome that nobody has. They're about as safe a country as you could find on planet Earth. No one else has Iron Dome. Only a handful of countries have nukes. They have a better military than the rest of the Middle East combined. They're perfectly safe. Then you say, okay, you're good. You exist. We're all in favor of that. Now Palestine should exist. They're like, how dare you anti-Semite? No. You're the bigot. You're the bigot saying that another people should not have freedom. They've kept those people enslaved, 5.5 million Palestinians, for 58 years. And then they brag, oh, Israel's the best democracy and the only democracy in the Middle East. Well, it's a democracy within Israel. It's a dictatorship within the occupied territories. What is happening in the occupied territories?
There's a bit of a dictatorship now in mainland Israel for Israeli Jews, too. I mean, you're not welcome to, well, first of all, they try to keep people from leaving the country, have restricted freedom of movement. And there, I mean, you get the cops at your door for saying certain things in that country. It's in many countries that's true, but it's also true there. So like, come on now.
Yeah.
Stop lying to me.
Yeah. And so the media, they're an enormous part of the problem. So you see our politicians, both under Democratic and Republican presidents and administrations, say, no, we're not going to release the Epstein files. No, we're going to give Epstein a sweetheart deal back in 2008. And then we're going to take Alex Acosta and make him the labor secretary under Trump. Right?
That was the funniest thing that's ever happened. Didn't work very well.
Yeah. And by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell, that sounds familiar. Oh, she's the daughter of Robert Maxwell, legendary Israeli spy who stole our nuclear secrets. By the way, I don't know that that's ever been mentioned on cable news, ever. Isn't that a super interesting fact that the main co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, that her dad was the biggest spy Israel's ever had? Now, you could say, hey, the sins of the father are not passed on to the daughter, so that doesn't prove anything, but it's at least an interesting fact.
And it's not even the most interesting. In my opinion, the most interesting fact is Attorney General Barr covered up Epstein's murder because he was murdered. And he covered it up as the Attorney General of the United States and said, we have to let people know this was a suicide. Like, number one rule is don't let them think it was a murder. He said that before they'd done an investigation into it. So like, that's a cover up by definition. You don't even know the facts, but you're reaching a conclusion and commanding everyone else reach the same conclusion. You're covering it up. And then it turns out his father, Donald Barr, got Jeff Epstein his first job teaching math at the Dalton School. He didn't even have a college degree, okay? And then got him a job at Bear Stearns. The Attorney General's father is the one who started Jeffrey Epstein's career and set him up with his friends in finance. And then his son becomes Attorney General and covers up his murder. I mean, what are the chances, Cenk? Like, what are the odds on that, do you think?
Then you combine that with the odds on the Maxwells. Then you combine that with the odds of Israeli spies and prime ministers staying at his house. And then you combine that with all the emails he's saying, I can't wait to get America to do what Israel wants.
Unlikely things happen, but we've all seen crazy things happen. It's like, oh, happenstance. And like, you know, sometimes it, you know, rolls up and you get the jackpot. I get it. That is part of life. But if it keeps happening and you keep yelling at me for noticing, I think you think I'm dumb, right?
Yeah. And so, Tucker, what I think happened
Come on now.
Yeah. They're insulting our intelligence.
You think? Yeah.
100%. And so but there's something great happening at the same time.
Okay.
So politicians, terrible, but now we got a little bit of rebellion on the Democratic side with Akana and a couple of guys, a little bit of rebellion on the Republican side with Tom Massey, a little bit of anti-war with Rand Paul. Marjorie Taylor Greene was great. I wanted her to stay. By the way, the one person, we had Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show a couple of times. People start yelling at me. How dare you? What are you doing? She's the enemy and stuff. And I'm like, guys, they want you to think that the other side is the enemy. They want you to
had Marjorie on your show?
Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Good.
So they want you to use all of your energy and all of your fight against other Americans.
Of course.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene comes on, and I said, well, I had her on because she's agreeing with us. She's
right.
She's anti-war. We're anti-war. Like, I'm taking yes for an answer, right?
Amen.
They said, but did she ever do anything substantive to stand up to Israel? Yeah, actually she did. She almost single-handedly killed a boycott, divestment, and sanction bill in the House.
Yeah.
She said, no, this is taking away Americans' freedom of speech. I'm against it. And when she made a big deal out of it, it embarrassed the other Republicans because, yeah, it's against our freedom of speech.
Exactly.
Right? And so she did do something great, right?
Yeah, more than almost anyone.
Yeah. And so I still disagree with Marjorie and you on other issues, right?
But why would people that's so interesting that people would be mad at you for having her on when she's one of the only members of Congress, literally the only members who's doing the things that you have said that you believed in for a long, long time.
100%.
It's so strange.
because we've been taught by the media to hate each other. Yeah. And to have a tribal brain, partisan brain.
Totally true.
Right? So, because if the left and the right, the Republicans and Democrats realize that the people rigging the rules are the ones with all the wealth and power up top, that is the only force that is mighty enough to take on the ruling class, the donor class. So that is why they have to get us fighting at all times. You must hate each other. Don't look up. Whatever you do, don't look up. Hate each other, use all your energy this way. So unfortunately, our side got taught this too. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, that's it. You can't ever talk to them. They're the bad guys, right? I'm like, are they still the bad guys if they agree with me?
Right. I mean, let's get back. Let's define bad guy for a second. No,
and do I have to change my position if Tucker agrees with me? Do I have to become pro-war?
All right, let's bomb Iran now. This is too much. I can't deal with it. Some podcaster agrees with me. I'm changing my mind.
Yeah. So now Roe did something really smart, and this gets back to Marjorie in a sec. Roe took an executive order that Trump had about lowering drug prices, most favored nation status, right? If France, Germany, Japan are paying this much, we should pay that much.
Yeah.
Why are we financing the whole world? And that's what's happening. We're paying so much more, not than Ethiopia, but than other developed nations like Germany. And
of course, to subsidize drugs that aren't even made in this country.
Yeah.
It's so bonkers.
By the way, we subsidize them in 100 different ways.
Oh, I know.
We also, we pay for their research that goes to the universities, right?
Of course.
And then we give them the patent. What? No. That patent is worth billions, maybe trillions of dollars. And the American taxpayer paid for that research. Should we not get equity? That is how capitalism works. When we bailed out the banks, should we have not gotten equity? If a private company bailed out the banks, they would have owned the banks. Okay? That's how capitalism works.
If you don't pay your mortgage, they own your house.
Exactly.
Right.
But
it's called collateral. Yeah.
Yes. But for the donor class, in that case, the pharmaceutical companies, nope, just have it for free.
Right. You outsource the risk, you privatize the reward. It's the oldest system there is and also the most immoral.
Yeah. And so the reason why the tappers of the world hate left-wing populists is because we've been pointing this out for 20 years. So when Roe does this and he goes, okay, look, the executive order, it'll get knocked down by the courts. But good news, if we turn it into a bill, it can't get knocked down by the courts. So he took the executive order verbatim, didn't change a word, okay, and said, now let's pass it as a bill. And he got 2 or 3 Republican co-sponsors. I went to the Democrats, the couple of Democrats that I know in Congress, and I was like, guys, this is beautiful. It's a layup. This is core Democratic policy. We got super lucky. Trump did an executive order doing our policies. So let's jump on Roe's bill. Nope. The only person I could convince to join Roe's bill was Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No way.
Yes.
And what did Jake Tapper weigh in on this?
So no, here's my beef, old school beef with Jake. So other than his nonstop defense of Israel, and I'm sure he'll object to that. I've slightly tweaked them from time to time. What do you mean? Okay, I'm like 12%, 11, 9, 7% against the genocide. Okay, but it's not a genocide, you anti-Semite. Okay, so I feel like Jake Tapper is looking down his nose at us every time he talks on TV. He's like, and I will tell you this: Israel had nothing to do with. None of the donors had anything to do with anything, right?
I feel like I know Jake well, but I feel like he's the one who's suffering. I feel like it hasn't worked. It's the prizes that he wanted weren't worth having, and he doesn't seem happy at all to me. But maybe I'm just.
So, God bless his heart. I wish him nothing but happiness.
Yeah,
okay,
me too.
But so how did it come about? So when I ran for Congress, the media lied about me in hilarious ways. Okay. So, and Jake joined in on that. So they would take out of context clips and then Jake would retweet it and without even checking. I thought you were a journalist. So the New York Times said that I had a history of being anti-Muslim and never mentioned that I was born Muslim and my family's Muslim and my background's Muslim. Never mentioned it. The New York Times described me in such a vicious way that if I was a voter in that district that I was running in, I would have voted against me, right? Because I don't want to vote for an anti-Muslim, anti-Semite, anti-everything. They painted me as like some like vicious, racist right-winger when I was the biggest supporter of Bernie Sanders in the primaries, right? In 2016, 2020, et cetera. So, and then they said, he had an interview with David Duke where I lit into David Duke because David Duke was saying outwardly anti-Semitic things.
Yeah.
And I called him an anti-Semite, a bigot, all these things. Because you know me,
and also a federal informant, just to add to the list.
Yeah. And an idiot, et cetera. So I said all those things in the interview. I hold no holds barred at Young Turks, right? New York Times said, that I agreed with David Duke that he was not a racist. And other outlets said that I brought David Duke on to share his anti-Semitic views.
No way.
Yeah. And so other journalists watched the interview. Well, they want to see how terribly anti-Semitic and racist Cenk was, pretending to be a left-winger and all this. And they're like, holy shit, you guys are totally lying. The exact opposite happened in the interview.